It certainly is a top case that I think is very difficult on this department, but they certainly showed their professionalism. They knew what it would be like to be prosecuting one of their own. Very grateful to Chief Jordan and Dave Walker in the homicide unit. They certainly persisted in this matter. They wanted to see a final verdict. I consulted them before we went into this last trial and asked them what their position was, and they fully supported my position that we needed a final verdict. So what the Tulsa Police Department did with regard to its investigation, its perseverance needs to be recognized. It's a hard case for any department to have to be going after one of their own. I do kind of want to echo some statements here with regard to the people who are affected by this. Jeremy Lake obviously is not going to breathe another breath on this planet. His life is deprived of him by the actions of Mr. Kepler. And his family is going to have to live with the rest of their lives, never being able to enjoy what that young man was capable of doing. Heard a lot of good stories about Jeremy and how he helped out the homeless down in the community that most people would have discarded. Jeremy was one of those people that, if you really heard his story, had a lot of compassion, and he clearly was focused on helping out his fellow man. In addition to that, I have some compassion and feelings for the Kepler family. I don't think their family ever envisioned that a 25-year veteran of the Tulsa Police Department would go off the rails like Mr. Kepler did on this particular evening. He certainly had a background that would reflect that for the majority of his career he was an honorable police officer, but in the end it was his choice and all his actions to head out to that location in those evening hours on August 5th of 2014 that forever changed the trajectory of his life, the trajectory of his family's life, and certainly of Mr. Lake's life. So I'll take any questions you have.
Talk about the persistence in continuing to try this case until a verdict was reached.
Well, the law requires finality to a verdict, and it would be really easy for anybody to sit there and say, well, if we're just going to let a couple people hang up a jury, which is what we encountered previously, justice wasn't going to be done. I believe strongly in the evidence that we had. Mr. Gray and I had fought long and hard on this matter. We were of an equal mind as far as what needed to be done. And I was very much encouraged by this particular jury. I think they obviously knew that there was some history to the case. And we had a couple jurors comment when we were doing jury selection about how they felt the need that this case needed to be brought to a conclusion. And so I think this jury worked very hard to give them some type of verdict. We were prepared for any verdict, thumbs up or thumbs down. I just wanted finality for this family.
You heard most of O'Carroll's reaction to this. What are your comments when he says this was a political move to?
The interesting part about that is you all have dealt with me for a long time. I can't comment about a case before we get it in front of a jury. We're very careful about making public comments about it. And the person who was giving all the public commentary and calling this a political case was Mr. Kepler's counsel. And I think it's important to kind of note, you may not have known it from the evidence, but historically throughout this case, Jeremy was identified either through the medical examiner's office or through an earlier police report as a white male. The only person who ever put black male on any document was Mr. Kepler when he was on the hunt for Jeremy Lake. And so, basically what I have to say about this being some type of political case, it's simply a prosecution for somebody who killed another human being. Race really had nothing to do with this case, and certainly I think Mr. Kepler's attorney tried to use every advantage he could to try and make it some type of political case and distract the jury from what their job was.
Steve, Richard said this is a numbers game, but in terms of the evidence that was presented in court every single trial to the jurors, I mean, Jeremy never had a gun. There was nobody ever testified. Even neighbors who never even knew Jeremy before the night of the shooting all said that nobody ever saw a gun, that there wasn't a gun on him, that there were people around them within seconds of the shooting happening because neighbors heard it and rushed outside. What do you make of this notion that it was a numbers game and that things were changing every single time of trials? I mean, the evidence was the same, wasn't it?
Anybody who's dealt with Mr. O'Carroll totally understands everything that comes out of his mouth. It's unpredictable, no matter what. he's gonna look at the sun and he's gonna say that's not the sun that's up in the sky. And he's gonna tell you that the sky is gray when the sky is blue. I've dealt with Mr. O'Carroll for a number of years. He's, I guess, good at what he is hired to do. But in the end, what my focus is and what Mr. Gray's focus is every day is going to be, let's just get the facts in front of a 12 tried and true or a judge and let those people determine what the outcome ought to be. Our focus is on the truth. It's got nothing to do with numbers. It's got everything to do with bringing justice into the courtroom. Kevin, you got something you want to say?